Hello, and welcome to Practical Balance. I'm your host, Jen Westlake of Soululaire, and I'd like to introduce to you my co-host, Janice Whiting of Lifted Spiritz. Hi, Janice. How are you today?
Hello. Great. How are you?
I am doing good. I am really excited to be starting our first Practical Balance show and to have you here with me today. And I thought that we could start out by letting our new friends know why we wanted to create this show. So what are your thoughts, John?
Well, I was excited that when you asked me to participate because it's an opportunity to share what I've learned from the experience of being able to see and talk to the other side. I've been able to see and talk to people not on this earth since I was a child. 8 is the earliest I remember, though they say they tried to sneak in sooner. And all the years as I grew up talking to them, they have always had a big theme of how to master the game of earth spiritually. And one of the things I have said is we are now in a very precarious time on earth, that playing the game of earth the human way is not going to be successful. And humans can try and try and try, but all the rules that humans have tried to follow to master the game of earth humanly is not going to work, as we have seen recently in the last couple of years, but probably even before that. And so, so they say the downside is for humans who don't learn to master the game of earth spiritually and magically, that it will be challenging. And but for those who do learn to, and it does force humans to learn to master the game of earth spiritually, they then learn how to define life instead of not life not define them. And that's when you become a true spiritualist.
That's great. That's great. For me, what I wanted to do this show is, early on in my life, I was ill with a chronic childhood illness. And by the time I reached my 20s, I was facing my own mortality. And so I ended up having 4 near-death experiences. And while I was on the other side, Spirit and my guardian angels and ascended masters helped give me the tools to not only survive until I received a double organ transplant that actually saved my life, but also showed me things about the times that we're living in now. And then when I came back, I was guided by Spirit to many different kinds of information that they wanted me to learn and to share and compile, into a healing and teaching process that I have called Soululaire. And so with the things that I have been shown and the things that I've learned, I feel that I'm in a position to help assist and guide people in the journey of life that we're living through right now. So I'm really excited to have you, Janice, not only co-hosting the show, but also being a dear friend of mine. We've known each other for a long time. And I remember us thinking that a lot of the events that are happening now were going to happen back in 2012. And the events of 2012 did not unfold the way a lot of people thought that they were going to unfold. But back then we had a in-person support group that we called Practical Balance. And now we're just expanding that out into the world through these digital video platforms. So I'm really happy to be doing this again with you, my friend.
Great. I love it. Also, I think that as I listened to Spirit, things did start to change in 2012. And so humans just didn't see the little things that were happening. But according to Spirit, that's when things started to change. And so it's just like a snowball rolling downhill. It got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until now.
Right, right. From my perception of the events back in 2012, I've come to determine that, everything is created spiritually or energetically first before it manifests into the spiritual realm, into the physical realm. And I feel like 2012 was a kind of a collective choice point for people, to where they chose kind of what timeline they wanted to be on, the timeline of light and love, or the timeline of kind of more of the negative and dark timeline. And I feel that collectively humanity chose the love and light, the benevolent, the good timeline. And then once we made that choice in 2012, then things started to come into physical manifestation. What do you think about that?
Well, I remember chatting with Spirit one time, and they said that the trajectory that we're on now cannot go wrong. It can't fail. Like the other world somehow had a little powwow, and they decided, do we let Earth destroy itself, or do we step in and try to save it? And they decided they were at that time going to save it. And so that's where we are today. Also, I do remember years ago, Spirit took me astral traveling to this meeting.
Okay,
and
wow.
It was a huge table, huge oblong table. And I was an observer to it. I didn't have a seat at the table. And I remember looking at all of the different beings that were around this table. And I was immediately aware that they didn't look, many didn't look human. So, and then as I was going to mention that with the guide who took me there, they said, pay attention. And so then I paid attention to what they were saying, and they were planning Earth's future. And they were planning Earth's future. And then Spirit said to me, there is nothing happening on Earth that we don't know about, allow, or stop. And so they said, we run the universe, even though humans think maybe they do. So what I learned from that is, the plant is so big that actually now humans can't screw it up. You can screw up your daily dynamics of how you adjust, how you choose to create your experience on this earth. But the big picture, the trajectory of the big picture and Earth is already preset, and no human can get in the way of it. And also, even though it looks on Earth that there are negative people having a big effect on it, we see the little bit that they get away with, maybe. And there are many things they try to do that the universe says that's not happening, and they stop it. So yeah, it does force us or allow us to have to master the daily dynamics of living in the game of Earth. That's what the other side calls it, the game of Earth. And so that's about all we're in charge of at the moment, is how we deal with the living experience as we move through this in real time, per se, human real time.
Yeah. I remember also in one of my experiences, it was shared with me that after 2012, those people with the negative agenda wouldn't be successful anymore, that their plans would no longer be supported any longer, and that any attempts that they try to move their negative agenda forward would be thwarted, and anything that they put out would backfire on them multiplied. And it looks like a lot of their plans have been backfiring, and I'm suspecting will continue to backfire on them if they persist in pushing forward their negative agenda.
And yet they keep trying.
They keep trying and they keep trying, and I think the good guys, I think the good people are winning, and those that are moving forward.
That might day to day have a different look to it, but in the big picture, absolutely. In the big picture.
Yeah, the big events. I do feel that on an individual level, I do feel that things can change based on how people change their thoughts, feelings, and beliefs, and their behaviors, that they can that there still is free will, that things on an individual level aren't necessarily locked in. And so people have some wiggle room. Don't you agree with that?
I think that that how we navigate through our day-to-day living and how positive or motivated or spiritual and kind and generous and forgiving and creative we want to be in the dailiness of our life,
right,
is up to us. The bigger picture is it's really up to spirit. But I got to tell you something funny. The other day, my husband was playing some music, and he was playing Willie Nelson. And Willie Nelson has a new song about how thought creates action.
Wow!
I remember the name of it. Might be Thought Creates Something.
I'll have to find it.
So I think he tried. So even he knows a lot of the true spiritual dynamics of mastering the game of earth spiritually, where the song is "Be careful what you think, because thought create action." And I was like, oh my gosh, who woke up Willie Nelson? Or maybe he's been awake for a while. But the fact that he dared make an album with songs like that on means that he felt it was part of his soul's assignment to share what he believes is spiritual universal truth.
Yeah, I do believe that we are going through what's being called the Great Awakening. And I do think that, people are waking up, and that consciousness is evolving. And I'm really happy about that. The only comment I wanted to make on the individual level is that I do believe that prayers are still being heard by spirit, and that individuals can still get help from spirit in their daily lives, and even have miracles happen in their lives if they ask.
It's a dance of co-creation, meaning it's very yin yang. Spirit does their part, we do ours. Can we do well all by ourselves? No. And spirit doesn't have hands to do all the human stuff. So it is a dance that we have to do together. That is called mastering the game of earth spiritually. And another thing I remember Spirit saying, understanding is one thing, but then trying to actualize it in your life is something else. Meaning, and they meant it like they told me the story of, if I gave you a fabulous recipe for a cake.
Yeah.
If you had it, read it, said, oh yeah, this probably does work, and put it in your pocket and did nothing, you would not have a fabulous cake. You do have to take the recipe and actualize it in order to have your fabulous cake.
Right. And I think the reason that part of why we wanted to do this show is to help people, give them the recipe, and then also guide them and direct them on how they can bake their own fabulous cake.
Right. Because you can't bake anybody else's fabulous cake. Nobody saves the self but the self, and nobody bakes their fabulous cake but the self.
Yeah.
You can share the recipe, and that's it.
Yeah. You can't do someone else's work for them. You can give them some pointers, but like you said, they have to do the work. So, yeah.
So I remember once somebody was saying in the session, chatting with Spirit, oh yeah, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And Spirit jumped right in and said, can we change that? You can lead a horse to water, and that's good enough. Your soul's obligation is when you go to water, you drink. Your happiness cannot be hinged on if another horse drinks. Your happiness is hinged on if you drink.
Yes, yes, yes. And I know that's kind of been a challenging lesson for me to learn, because I care about people and I want them to drink. But again, I have to keep reminding myself it's not my job to whether they drink or not. I've led them to the water, and what they do with that is up to them. So yeah,
Absolutely.
I have to keep working on that one.
I have heard Spirit say that though we're on earth with a zillion people, it is a walk you walk alone, because nobody saves the self but the self, and no one bakes the self cake but the self.
Right.
But so I realized what they meant was our soul's obligation is to master the self. Our soul's assignment is to share the recipe.
Right, right. And then for me, with Soululaire, the way that we master, in my opinion, is by going within and connecting with our own soul, to live from the cellular part of ourselves. Because as we quiet our mind and go within, that's where we can find the answers, by connecting to our own soul and to work on that soul journey that you were just talking about.
Also, I've heard Spirit say that to still the self is to be able to query the self, is to be able to assess. To still the self is to be able to query the self and excavate the self, so that you can redefine the self, so you can master the self.
Right, right. And I also think that, as we go within and like do that self-discovery, that self-excavation, that's when we come into our authentic self and remember who we really are as a child of the light, as a child of the divine, and step into our own personal power. And I think life gets a lot easier when we can get all the other voices out of our head and start being true to who we really are.
True. I have heard Spirit say, to know the self is to own the self. And that was never taught to humans.
Right.
Whoever was ever taught to still the self, excavate the self, assess the self, define the self. And I remember chatting with Spirit, and they said, when you come to earth, you have to be willing to disappoint people who have an agenda for you that they shouldn't have. Meaning, and forever, as humans came to earth, who said, oh yeah, disappoint people. be your most authentic, fabulous self.
Well,
be willing to disappoint people. But and oddly though, the younger people are coming with that innate characteristic now.
Yeah.
Try to dress a toddler in what you want. Not gonna happen. And so I try to make them do what they don't want to do. Not gonna happen. So really, I like that the toddlers have, probably even teenagers. I have a granddaughter that's in her 20s, and she does what she wants to do. But then I was her grandma, and always telling her to follow her, speak her truth kindly, follow her heart, and be in and enjoy the moment. So she had a little bit of coaching, but the souls coming to earth now are more and more and more self-empowered.
I remember, I obviously did not come into Earth that way, you know, because in one of my first near-death experiences, they're like, "Well, how's it going down there? How you doing?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm trying to be this for my mom. I'm trying to do this for my dad. I'm trying to be this for the school. I'm do this for the church that I was raised in." And they're like, "Stop, stop, stop." You know, they're like, you know, your life is God's gift to you. Now, we want you to go down there and make of it what you want, you know, because I was doing and
Who
being
told
for
you that
everybody.
before?
Yeah. I was my life was everyone else's agenda for me, but my own. And so I learned that lesson really the hard way. And I have disappointed a lot of people and made a lot of people angry at me, but their agenda that they had for me was at the expense of myself. You know, what's that scripture? Love thy neighbor as thyself. It's not love thy neighbor instead of yourself or at the expense of yourself. And that's exactly what I had been learning and had been living up until the point that I had that coaching from my guides on the other side. And after that, my life took a turn that, yeah, I did disappoint a lot of people, but I'm actually a lot more healthy and happier now than I've ever been before. And I do it kindly and I do it with confidence and hopefully, you know, I haven't hurt too many people's feelings. If I did, I'm sorry. You know, but
Well,
that is
it
what it
just
is.
means that their happiness was hinged on you doing what they want. And
Yes.
that's the human perspective.
Right.
That I always tell my husband and everybody, it's all about me. I don't think I'm better than others. I don't, even though I've been lucky enough to be coached by the other side all my life, which has pretty much made it pretty fabulous. That I don't think I'm better than others, but I think I have more pieces of the puzzle of mastering the game of Earth spiritually. And that makes me more kindly empowered. And I do remember doing a session with somebody, and we were talking to a father on the other side. And they said, and she said to him, "How are you now that you've been on the other side a year? What do you think about your time on Earth?" And he said, "I realized I was there for everybody but me." And then I thought, oh, there's a do-over.
Right, right. And that's what was happening with me. That's what, you know, in that first near-death experience I had, I was living, you know, I look at my life and I wasn't in it kind of thing. You know what I mean? Because it was about everybody else. I do think, though, that this life is about having, you know, a healthy self-respect and self-care. And I also think that it's also about being of service to others. And like you said, sharing the recipe and giving them pointers and assisting. But again, it's not doing the work for others. So,
Right.
yeah.
I do say it's all about me, and I'm comfortable with that because my life is. Because when I leave this earth, I'm going to be the one who would look back with pleasure or regret.
Exactly, exactly.
And I do try to not hinge my happiness on what others do, but I do have a husband, and he would disagree with that. He probably thinks that I hinge my happiness on what he does, and there's probably a few things around the house that be true.
Yeah.
But basically, I just let him make himself happy. I make myself happy, and we do it in the same house.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. So, you know, one of the things that makes me happy is seeing that there's something that I've done to help someone else be happy by giving them a tool or some support and some encouragement and things like that. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to do this show, is to help people, you know, navigate these times and give them some tricks and tools on how they can master the game of life spiritually. and walk down a different path than society has taught us. I guess we could call it the road less traveled, because most of us have been programmed and conditioned to think and feel and believe a certain way. And like you said earlier, that path is no longer playing that game the human way, is not working for us any longer. We have to make this the step over into the new path, which is living life spiritually.
True.
So
And I remember Spirit saying, make your choices from your heart, then use your mind to carry it out. Don't make your choices from your mind, because that's what the world has programmed you to do.
exactly.
The right and the wrong, pleasing whatever geography and religion and family, and they have been your initial programmers. And for those who still themselves and say, I don't feel satisfied and I need to redefine my life, then you go within and think, who do I want to be? What do I want to do? And where do I want to do it? So that's when you excavate and redefine yourself.
Right.
And I know all that's easier said than done.
I know.
But that is to be our goal.
But we're all a work in progress. We're all beautiful. We're all talented. And, we all have a lot of potential. And I remember, one of the things that you've assisted me with is, working on, we all love the potential and we don't necessarily look at the actual. But we're at a point now in our lives where we have to actualize. We can no longer, we have to step out of the potential and move into the actual.
True. Absolutely.
So, yeah, and that's me just repeating to you what you taught me a long time ago. So yeah. But
the other side has lots of little sayings that they use to teach people in mastering the game of Earth spiritually. And they love these little stories because it helps you assimilate, and you get a very simple mastering the game of Earth spiritually is actually very simple. It's just creating new habits. And I've heard Spirit say, if you can't do simple, you can't do complicated. So it does force it. They say, if you can't do addition and subtraction, then you cannot do multiplication and division, and on and on and on.
Right.
So it does. They do think quite oddly patronizing humanness, I think, sequentially. Right. If you cannot do simple, you cannot do complicated.
Yeah.
If you can't do addition and subtraction, then you can't do multiplication and division.
Right.
And so you can't skip a grade.
Right.
They force us to take the journey to ascension very sequentially. And
right. One of the things that they taught me, it's funny because one of the things I love talking to you about is because the things that they shared with you are very similar to the exact same things they shared with me. So their Spirit's message is consistent. And that's what I like, because first of all, one of the things they said to me, which you just talked about, is they said, think with your heart and feel with your mind, which was talking about, make your think from your heart. And so then you can make your decisions wisely. And then one of the things that we do at Soululaire is we teach what, sounds biblically, line upon line, precept upon precept, and grace upon grace, which is, okay, first you learn addition, and then you go home and do the homework and get that down. And so you learn the lesson, and then you have to apply it. And then you go back to school the next day, and then teacher teaches you subtraction. And then you get the homework assignment, and then you have to apply it to actually master it. And so on and so forth. And so I love that, Spirit wants things to start out simply. I think for the last 10 years, my New Year's resolution has been to choose easy, because I have a way of making life more complicated than it needs to be. And so I always have to remind myself, okay, this, choose easy. This doesn't have to be as difficult or as complicated as I'm making it. So it's all
Also,
good.
also yin yang, it's very effortful or effortless, and I choose effortless. And
Mhm.
partnering with spirit helps make my life effortless. And when I try to do it all by myself, as humans do, it can become effortful.
Yes.
So even that in the saying of make your choices from your heart and use your mind to carry it out. As
Mhm.
somebody says, I would love, who can from their mind think they should get married? Who should from their mind think they should have a family? It's really all felt from the heart, and then you use
Mhm.
your mind to actualize.
Yeah.
And so if someone said, I feel I want to move to Florida,
Mhm.
then they use their mind to actualize the steps to get them there.
Right.
But they have made their choice from their heart.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I think going forward, I want our new friends to know that we are here to assist them in this time. And so, is there anything today that Spirit wants our viewers to know right now?
Well, as they do. As we start out simple, we are to simply speak our truth and simply just bless someone when we're not in the position or shouldn't solve their problem for them. So one of the things I have learned from Spirit is they always say, "Bless your butt off," and I know they're kind of joking. Um, but they think the the actualization of mastering the game of earth spiritually is to make the simple things a habit of blessing everything I eat and everything I drink, whether it be my morning coffee to maybe in the evening, maybe a glass of wine or and water and everything. I bless everything before I put it in my body. I bless what's sacrificed for it, and I bless that it assists me to be the best that I can be. And 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 so but I've chatted with them for a long time. I have the habits. They're just my second nature. But I do know for humans just starting the journey, um, they have to do the same thing. They have to make simple things a habit. Simply
Mhm.
speak your truth kindly, even if you think maybe you might get fired. And yes, I have done that in the past because it's all about speaking my truth. And
Right.
and I didn't get fired. I actually got a promotion, but I risked.
Cool.
So I actually think risking is um, speaking your truth kindly, following your heart,
Mhm.
blessing everything, and risking to create the life that brings you joy. It,
Mhm.
it makes you happy. Happy is healthy. Happy is often abundant. Happy is um, everything. Like, and I'm almost 70, so actually happy keeps you healthy. Happy slows down the aging.
Yes.
I barely ask Spirit for the human things that I want now. They often just drop them in my lap before I've even asked for them. But yes, definitely in the beginning, I had to learn to ask,
Mhm.
intend, and define, and ask
Yep.
for what I thought would help me master the game of Earth better, more joyfully.
Mhm.
And so I all these things that we are asking and others to risk to do, I've had to do in my life. You have to do in your life. And from what I have heard from Spirit, Christ had to do in his life. So and he came to earth to show us how to master the game of earth spiritually
Right.
in a different era, but
Right,
uh,
right, right.
without
That his
without all
teachings are timeless, I
true
mean, his
and
teachings,
simple, simple,
exactly.
simple, simple.
Yeah, it's like
Mhm,
the beauty of the teachings is its simplicity, you
mhm,
know, and so it's a good path to follow But like you said, it's not, can't always be an easy path to follow, because we have a lot of our human programming and conditioning that we have to learn how to release and let go of. And I
And
really,
even if you have the strength and the clarity to make a new plan,
Mhm.
one of the hardest things is feeling comfortable disappointing people who have agenda for us that they should not have. I
Right.
mean, if I ran this universe, and I talk to Spirit a lot about that, if I ran this universe, if I ran the game of Earth, um, others would just be so content with making themselves happy that their
Mhm.
happiness wouldn't be hinged on how others play the game of Earth.
Yeah. I'm
Because
curious
they'd be
though,
happy. Happy doesn't care how others play the game of Earth.
right. But I'm curious though, and this might be a question that you know, our friends here want to know too. Is like, why do people, or how do people come to always having agendas for other people, instead of just having agendas for themselves?
So I did chat with Spirit about that once when I had a session with someone, and she was per se, a Christian. And
Mm-hmm.
so she said, and Spirit wanted to talk to her about do self first, then others, not self first and not others,
Mm-hmm.
self first, then others. And she said, um, well, I was taught at church that it was doing for others then makes you happy. And Spirit said, really? Because the happy people that we know do for themselves first.
Mm-hmm. Well, then how do you differentiate between, making yourself happy and narcissistic personality disorder?
And I'm sure there are human personality disorders caused by many things,
Mm-hmm.
whether it be in utero, whether it be chemical, whether
Mm-hmm.
it be behavioral programming, negative behavioral programming. And
Mm-hmm.
I have had it with Spirit, and they say down the road, those um, that dynamics will be eliminated from the game of Earth. But humans still playing the game of Earth humanly
Mm-hmm.
have those disorders.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because there's a lot of talk about narcissism nowadays, more so
Mhm.
now than when I was younger. It was there, people didn't even really know what that was back then. But I
Mhm.
think that there's a good a good path of, like you talk about, making the self happy and working on the self. I think it's the positive path of self love. And I think narcissism turns into kind of a toxic um, path of self
I don't,
gratification and things like that. So I think
I don't
I
think
think like you say,
narcissists
it's
are
like yin
really
and
happy.
yang.
Yeah, I don't think narcissists are really happy. It's
Yeah.
almost like they're just faking it and trying to make the game of Earth work the human way.
Uh-huh.
And narcissists often um, expect others to make them happy. Um,
Exactly. They're, yeah.
and
Narcissists aren't
so
willing to
they
do the
then have
work.
not learned the correct way of self first, then others.
Uh-huh.
And but that's a crazy game of Earth. You have,
Right,
you
right.
know, most humans did not come with a user manual.
Exactly,
And,
exactly,
and by
exactly.
the grace of God, I was shared. I had the ability to see and talk to the other side and get
Huh.
what they thought was the user manual for mastering the game of Earth spiritually.
Right, right. And
Mhm.
and I think that's such a beautiful gift that you've been given. And then I think for me, my near-death experiences was a very important gift for me as well. And my connection with spirit that way. Although we connected with spirit through different methods, I feel like spirit taught us the same and very similar lessons to share with people that both of us are now passing on to the people in our lives and our clients and our students and things
Mhm.
like that. So I feel very honored to
Mhm.
have been given those. I consider them a gift. And I'm sure you consider your relationship with Spirit a gift as well. And
True.
and so, and I, like I am here
And
to work for Spirit.
your situation started with a challenge, and often there is a silver lining to a challenge, and we don't maybe see that till we get through it and look back. But
Right.
often there is a silver lining to a challenge. For some reason, I really have not had a rough life, and and I think that's because the other side thought it behooved me not to, because they wanted me to teach for them, and me then having a challenged life would detract from the teachings.
Right. Right. And I
And
feel for me that my health crisis um, was basically an intervention from them, because I think I was
absolutely.
going down a path and in a direction they didn't want me to go, because I think they too wanted me to work and teach for them as well. So they had to do something
Mhm.
very, very dramatic to
Mhm.
get my
Yep, they
attention.
do.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, because
Mhm.
every time I've had a health crisis, I've ended up learning and growing spiritually by leaps and bounds, and then recovering and being healthy and happy. And
Mhm.
so I guess
Mhm.
my physical health is how they've gotten my attention.
And
And
also you've learned that yes, many doctors are wise, like when you had your foot concern, but then
yeah,
you realized not to just take their advice, go within and follow Spirit's advice, and voila, turned out well.
yep, yep, yep. I ended up healing. I had an incident with a foot infection and ended up healing it instead of surgically removing my foot. That was a very scary experience, but we healed it, and then the doctor did not know, like he kind of got a little humility after that. So,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
everybody's body is different and works differently.
Mhm.
There's not a textbook for
True.
everybody. Like you said, we don't come with a user manual. So,
I think
yeah.
mastering the game of Earth spiritually is mastering your own magic, so that you override, you define, intend, and override life defining you. Mhm.
Exactly, exactly,
Mhm.
exactly. Coming forward with our show, um, what are you hoping to accomplish with our show, Janice?
I just love to share the recipe. The truth is, my life's great. If you ask me today, what problem do I have? It might be that the weather is pretty hot down here and I'll have to scoot out soon and water my plants, who are probably very thirsty. But really, if that is my only problem. If in an hour I won't have that. So the truth is, I
Mhm,
don't have a problem. The other side sticks very close to me,
mhm,
guides me all through the day, every day,
mhm,
listens to what I say and think, and occasionally they'll stop me and say, no, that thought is wrong. And so
mhm,
and
mhm.
I go, oh,
Yeah.
and listen to their perspective. And yeah, they're right.
Mhm.
But I was born on earth, and some earthly things are probably going to sneak in, but they're quick to stop it and realign it quickly.
Right, right.
So really, I have a problem-free life. It's not my soul's plan to be ill,
Mhm,
um, poor, not, and I'm not a millionaire. And I don't know if I care about being a millionaire, because I have a lovely life
mhm,
and a lovely family, lovely critters, lovely house, lovely everything.
mhm,
And I have heard Spirit say, well, um, um, if that's not enough, then I have a problem. but it's enough. Um,
Yeah.
and so here's what I feel as a human spiritualist.
Mhm.
I can't save anybody. I don't even try to save anybody. All
Mhm.
my energy goes into making my life great in my soul's um, version of ascension while I'm still on earth,
Mhm.
and mastering my own magic
Right.
and creating my new spiritual habits that I've had to. That's my life's focus.
Mhm.
And I don't even feel the need to have agenda how others play the game of earth, or um, I feel that I lead them to water and that I'm done, because then it's all about me drinking water. So
Mhm.
um, so I just would love to have a magic pill or magic M&M that, as I gave to all humans, they would not have agenda up for others. All their agenda is to unlimit and master the game of earth spiritually for themselves.
Yeah.
So really, that is my only agenda as we do this show.
Cool. I want everyone to know that moving forward, what we would really love is to be able for you to ask your questions to Spirit so that we can answer those for you. And so we'll be providing you an email to where you can send us your questions so that we can answer them here on this show. Janice, do you have some time today to answer just a couple questions before we let our friends go?
I do.
Great, great. So, there's a lot of just upheaval, like we talked about earlier in the world. And after the last couple of years with the health crisis that we've undergone, people have lost jobs, been out of work. The lockdowns really kind of made a dent. And now we're seeing things like gas prices skyrocketing, food prices getting higher and higher. What does Spirit have to say about our financial future? And is there going to be a new benevolent money system coming down the road here anytime soon?
So yes, they do think that is what's going to happen. They think that it doesn't happen overnight. Earth dynamics and earth timeliness and earth actualization is very slow in moving. So to be honest, I'll say that do I see that happening now, between now and even fall coming? I don't. But I do see some other changes around us that are going to lead to that, even from now through summer into fall. So I see the steps happening that is then happening. I don't see that it just snaps into place one day.
Mhm.
Though if I ran the universe, it would, but I don't.
Yeah, me too.
So we go through summer and we go through early fall or late in the scenario. Though humans have been aware of a financial revaluation for 10, 20, 30 years, because
Right.
it is going to happen. It just doesn't happen as fast as humans want. So if the game of earth isn't happening to meet their needs, they have to do their own magical intention, like be in a bubble of peace as you're walking through a minefield. Because once you do your own magic in your bubble of peace, all the minefield stuff doesn't affect your life. I know that's odd to say. For example, if somebody was needing housing, I would immediately go to Spirit. I always go to Spirit. I never go to humans. I would immediately go to Spirit and say, Spirit, I need this. Help me out here. Help me, guide me to the perfect place for this new chapter of my life. I always go to Spirit. Humans don't do that. They worry
Mhm.
about it. They fret
Mhm.
about it. They do nothing, and then negative things often happen. So yes,
Mhm.
that's why it's imperative they learn to master the game of verse spiritually, because the human ways are not happening quick enough. The gas price is still going to go up, housing up. I mean, I do believe when there is like a big bubble pop, like they said happened in 2008, financial bubble pops,
Yeah.
um, that yes, there is a structuring and a revaluation, but also um, it's not happening soon, and everybody wants it to happen soon. And until it happens, hopefully soon,
Mhm.
um, they have to master the game of earth spiritually and magically for themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the
So
things,
I do not see quickly that happening. It's
okay.
still like a pimple. It's like a pimple that's getting a bigger and bigger and bigger
Yeah. You know,
white top.
it's one of the things that, because we've been at this for, a long time. And
Mhm.
we, before, when we were doing this prior to 2012, we knew about this this new financial system and this revaluation and making the currency asset back with gold and silver and other precious items and things like that, tangible assets. And so we've been waiting for the revaluation for a long time. And so it's like really interesting that humans' definition of soon is different than spirits
Oh yeah, forever they said
definition
soon.
of
When is
soon.
this gonna
So,
happen
you
soon?
know, but
Yeah. They
like,
don't give a timeline because they don't really care about the day. Humans
mhm,
care about the day.
mhm,
Human dynamics of life is this certain day or this certain hour or this certain month.
right.
Humans have the human structure. The
Mhm.
other side, if you said, how long will this take? They say, oh, it takes as long as it takes.
Yeah.
and
Well,
and
so
that's probably true.
humans are attached to the concept of time, where spirit is not, beholden to a time construct. And so we like a timeline, but they follow an event line.
Yeah.
And they're
And
waiting
then
for certain
energy line.
events to,
Mhm.
so we're working with different methodologies on looking
Yeah.
at things.
See?
So humans
Need
timeline,
to master that
spirit
too.
events line. So
Yeah.
they waiting for events to unfold and then things fall into place.
Right.
So what are
And
your
also, some humans think uh, they're waiting for another shoe to drop. Like humans think the negative just magically happens, but not
Mhm.
the positive. No, the
Right,
positive magically happens too. But
right.
often on the big things, it follows the timeline.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm,
the little things, it happens like right away.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Well, sometimes they're not always little things. You meet, who wakes up and says, oh, I'm going to find the partner who I spend the rest of my life with today. No, Spirit has the ball. The things that Spirit has the ball, you can trust that will happen in their timeline
Mm-hmm,
for
mm-hmm.
sure.
Yeah. So people just need to, you know, keep on keeping on until spirit decides it's time.
And how do they keep on? They master the
Sure, the
game of birth spiritually. That's
right
like the only saving grace that I can
can
find.
be right, exactly.
Yeah.
And and continue to go out throughout their day, loving and blessing. Bless you, bless this, bless that.
Bless your butt off. Yeah,
Bless and bless and
sure.
bless. So
I did that. Yeah.
anyways, Janice, this has been a lot of fun. I'm really excited for our new show coming forward. So, Janice, where can people find you?
I am on Instagram. I'm Lifted Spirits Guide. I am
Mhm.
on Facebook as Lifted Spirits Janice Whiting, and or you, as people want a session, they'll call my phone number, which I is 801-953-6723.
Great. Thank you so much. And
Thank you. It was fun.
It was fun. It was fun. And for those of you that are interested in finding me, you can go to www.soululaire, soululaire.com, soululaire.com. And if you have a question for us, you can go to hello@soululaire.com. It's been such a pleasure speaking with all of you today. We send you love and blessings, and we hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you. See you
Blessings
next
to you
time.
all. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.